Welcome to Savills' latest edition of Meet the Experts. My name is Phillippa Dalby-Welsh and I head up Savills' Country House Department. And today I'm here with my special guest, George Saumarez Smith from Adam Architecture. And George and I are going to be discussing some of the evolving themes that have conditioned the UK country house market over the past few years. This is going to range from everything from buying a property that has been renovated to restoration and, of course, the all-important topic of sustainability. We're here in the glorious grounds of Possingworth Manor in East Sussex, which is a 17th century Grade II star listed building with fabulous gardens and rural views. Let's show you this remarkable building before we sit down and discuss the market themes. George, thank you so much for joining us. Tell me a little bit about how you got into architecture and what sort of inspired your passion for historic buildings and designing new ones.
It's interesting because people come at architecture from lots of different directions. You know, it might be the technical side that appeals to people, it might be the artistic side. For me, it was always drawing. I just always loved drawing when I was young and was always drawing buildings. I love the components of buildings as well, the sort of, you know, staircases and attics and cellars and windows and all the sort of the different bits that make it up. So I suppose for me it's partly a passion for drawing, but also it's about the craftsmanship and materials that you find in old buildings.
Yeah. We're going to talk about a few, I suppose, key themes today. One of the things that is most interesting, I suppose, is how we've seen changes in preferences and desires in British architecture over the past few years.
Yes.
I mean, what have you seen in the projects that you've been working on? How have demands changed in the last few years?
I think the pandemic had a big effect on people's lifestyle. It is just the sheer amount of time people were spending at home, which was very unusual for most working people.
Yeah.
And I think that they had a renewed understanding of the seasons, of how their houses change at different times of year, but even during the day, of just the way that the light will move around your house, and some rooms are nicer in the morning and some in the evening.
Yeah.
Things they might never have noticed about
some
their own
rooms they
house.
probably hadn't spent much time in pre-pandemic, and then when they're all in a house together and having to, I suppose, escape to different parts of the house to get away from one another occasionally.
You know, and working people used to go out to work, and so they didn't have to escape their family and find private places in the house. But that has changed really, and I think that after the pandemic many more people are working from home at least some of the time.
Yeah.
And so they're re-evaluating how the house is used. And for some houses it's actually turning them back to the way that they were originally designed.
And I suppose certain architectural preferences come and go, don't they? We often find that people have an ideal as to the type of architecture that they're looking for.
Yes.
That sometimes is true in terms of their preference for authenticity, but also sometimes it's true because they have this idea of what that architecture affords for them. So we've definitely seen a desire for light in properties, and also I think for pop-out architectural features that give people a nod to the property's heritage.
Yes.
Are you experiencing that sort of demand from clients when you're restoring houses?
I think generally speaking, if you're buying an old house, you want it to have plenty of original character to it, and things like fireplaces, cornices, windows, panelling, those sorts of things give tremendous character to a house.
Yeah.
But if it's lost those things, you can put them back.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's really about making the sort of enhancing the character of a house.
Yeah.
And different historical periods will have such different character. There's a sort of love affair with Georgian architecture.
Yes.
But Georgian architecture is a very wide
It's very wide.
You know, it's over 100 years.
Yeah.
And so from the sort of early Georgian period when a lot of timber used, lots of panelled rooms, vertical proportions, right through to the Regency period, which is all about the sort of connection between the house and the garden, lots of light, much more bold use of colour. And so I think it's really about making the most of the period and sort of understanding the house and trying to build on that.
I suppose one of the hot topics of conversation around historic houses and indeed, of course, new build houses is sustainability.
Yes.
And, there are some challenges obviously associated with making historic houses sustainable, but what sort of things are you introducing into the design side of country houses that can help people with that?
So I would say the major issue with historic buildings is that if they're listed, which they generally are, there's a limit to how much you can upgrade the historic fabric. What we try to do is look at the heat loss of buildings and whether that can be upgraded. Generally, it's the fuel source is the thing that can be brought sort of into the modern age best. So if it's reliant on a large oil tank, of looking at whether we can introduce geothermal heating or other forms of renewable energy. And that's seen a huge surge. I think that country houses, perhaps more so than other types of property, are also seen as an investment for the future, something multi-generational. So they're not just for the current owners, but they're looking forward to future generations. And so they are generally more prepared to put money into the infrastructure to reduce the future burden of the house on the next generation and to bring down running costs. And
of course, if and when they're not passing it on to the next generation, but they may come to sell it, any investment in that, in that renewable energy or more sustainable energy source, or any improvements in insulation and the sustainability of the house, is going to have a positive effect in marketing terms for somebody coming in.
I imagine you're finding
that,
aren't you, that buyers are much more conscious now of the environmental credentials of even a very historic house.
Certainly. I think you get you get some people who are for whom that is probably the lead priority, but then you also get the sort of more purist architectural enthusiasts who actually want to live and enjoy a country house because it's almost like a piece of art, really, for them.
We need historic buildings around us because they remind us of our history and our culture, but historic buildings need us as well. We need people to love them and care for them.
Just for a bit of fun, we could do a top picks of architectural luxuries. If you're thinking of creating something luxurious, what would be the little pointers today? What would be those little luxuries that you think are most relevant to people today, or that you personally would like to see created in a house?
What would be? I mean, in the country house world, the ultimate luxury, I think, is an unspoiled view. That is really it's something that is extremely precious, and that's one of the reasons I think why people buying country houses now do want to buy some land, because they want to protect their future view from development or people changing the landscape. So yes, I think view is probably a beautiful landscape setting is something that is I think that's proper luxury.
Yeah, I think so. I think for me it would probably be lending extra space to those parts of a house that might be considered secondary. So whether it's corridor space, landing space upstairs, for me the ultimate luxury is if you feel you can give enough room to the landing for that to feel impressive. I think that speaks volumes about the house. And also those little back rooms, like the pantry and the laundry and the boot room, or in certain houses the flower room. All those things speak to me of luxury.
I completely agree, and a sort of generosity of space, even in the areas that might be for the servicing of the house.
I just want to say a big thank you to George for joining me today. Thank you for your fascinating insight and comment. It's been an absolute delight to
Pleasure.
have you here.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us at the beautiful Possingworth Manor. If you've enjoyed our episode today, please don't forget to like and subscribe below, and we look forward to seeing you next time.